Ladies and gentlemen, we are live to everyone on the interwebs. Please give it up for your hosts, Ben Andrews and Ivan Weiner.
Nice intro there, Todd. I like that.
Hey, how's it going, Todd? Ben, coming to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Good to see you, Ivan. So hello, everybody. Again, my name is Ben Andrews. I'm the founder and CEO of the Seattle Film Summit. Thank you for joining us on this third episode of Filling the Void. And of course, I'm excited to be co-hosting here with Ivan Weiner from the Albuquerque Film Music Experience. How are you doing today, Ivan?
Doing okay. It's been a busy morning. I think all the creatives are out there online and, on Zoom and trying to make a lot of things happen in the film and music world and the other different communities in the art world. And, there's a lot of optimism here in Albuquerque. I've talked to several people this morning and they have a really positive outlook on, how this has made everybody take a step back and become even more creative in how they're going to produce things. So, it's been an interesting morning, but glad to be here on Filling the Void. And I know we have some amazing guests today, from the Seattle area as well as from Albuquerque and one in from Buffalo, New York. So it's going to be a really great show.
Yeah, it does. I've personally lost count. I think it's like week 3 or 4 of quarantine. I'm not sure. Does anybody have a literal count?
I think it's around week 3.5 or 4.
3.5? Yeah, it does feel like we're starting to kind of at least accept the circumstances. And then I see more people than ever ratcheting into, okay, I now know where I'm at, but now how do I help? How do I create? How do I inspire? So I've been witnessing that transition myself.
Yeah, I think the transition's there. One thing I do want to mention, do go to our websites under the About button, I believe, on AFMX. There's a resources page, same with the Seattle Film Summit's website. Go to those resources pages because there's still a lot of grants, loans, all types of stuff that artists are in need of. I know that the governor of New Mexico just announced a $750 type stipend grant for the first 2,000 people that apply for it. So if you go to the New Mexico state website, it'll have information on that, and always have the economic development department with the state helping out as well with any questions.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, as you said, we have some really great guests, but before we ratchet into that, I need to do a couple house cleaning things here, as my producers have been training me. If you are new to this, then the goal here for Filling the Void is really just to, as we've talked about a little bit already, is to create a platform for creatives, realizing that, hey, we're all in the same boat together. One, to really provide resources to you, but also we want to hear from you. How are you being inspired? How are you creating? How are you getting through this? As we've mentioned in previous episodes, this isn't about the message that we want to tell you guys. It's really about hearing from you and getting the word out to how we can best help you. So we have an email here, fillingthevoidsubmissions@gmail.com. I'm sure Todd, our lovely voice of God producer, will flash that graphic up there. Again, it's fillingthevoidsubmissions@gmail.com. Please email us. Let us know what you need, what you want to talk about. We've seen some emails in there already, so keep them coming. We will be addressing all those shortly. We also just want to give a quick shout out to this week's sponsor, which is the Albuquerque Film Office. That's correct, right, Ivan?
That's correct. Yep. Under us, Mayor Tim Keller of Albuquerque and the Albuquerque Film Office. We were just voted by Movie Maker magazine #1 place to live and work in film. So, and then coronavirus put a complete halt to everything. But the Film Office does an amazing job with, just getting business here, as well as all the permitting and the like, just friendly as can be. And they're a great partner of ours since the inception of the festival in 2013.
Awesome.
So really appreciate them.
I also really want to give a shout out to, obviously we can't just get this thing fired up in a void. Sorry, I know it's filling the void. Good reference there. But thank you to Todd Connelly. He's our voice of God producer, Marissa Fujimoto, Genevieve Traynor, Kira Sipler, Lynn Bohart. These are all people that have put tons of hours into helping us get this platform up and available to you. Am I missing anybody in that list, Ivan, that I can think of?
No, I think that's it for now. Yeah, there's going to be more people added to it, but we, definitely want to thank everybody that's working so hard. There's a lot of behind the scenes when it comes to a show like this. Letters going out with all of the, things to do for the guests on the show, and thank you letters, and booking the talent and the like. And boy, do we have a list of talent, I think up to 200 people now, on the spreadsheets, and, some of the outreach to people in the Seattle and Albuquerque area specifically, but also a lot of named entertainers that are showing a great interest in this, that we're excited to announce over the next few weeks. So definitely follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Keep an eye out for Filling the Void and who the guests are going to be. Some big names coming down the pipe.
And as Todd will tell me, please tell me to tell you, hit subscribe and the like button.
Oh yeah, subscribe and like, and a big shout out to Maddie and Richard and Sven for joining us and being active in chat. We love to see those questions coming in anytime during the show.
Awesome. So are you ready to dive deep there, Ivan?
I think we are. I think we're ready to introduce the first guests and, get the show on the road. We have a really good 45 to 50 minutes of industry members that are joining us from Seattle and Albuquerque. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We have some music, we have some film, we have some nonprofit work that we're talking about, and everything's going to make a difference. And hopefully, the audience will be asking questions and being engaged with everybody, like I know they will be.
So I'm going to bring in our first two guests who are Washington-centric influencers, a couple favorite people of mine. First, we have Doreen Mitchum, who's from For Culture. She's been with that organization for over 20 years. I think since it was originally the King County Arts Commission.
Right.
And
Hi,
Doreen.
Hey, welcome.
She's also a very talented writer, but a little shy, so she might not admit to that. And then quickly, James Keblas, which is the first line of your bio, James, is awesome, is a punk rocker in a suit and a champion of artists. And currently, he's the head of development for World Famous. When I first met James, he was the director of the Seattle Office of Film and Music. I think he held that position for 9 years. But I've always considered James one of our state's creative thought leaders. So thank you both for being here.
thanks for having me.
So why don't we start with Doreen, and then let's just, this doesn't have to be extremely formal. We're just kind of talking about how COVID's been affecting your jobs, and not just your jobs and your profession, but personally. And let's go from there. Doreen.
Oh, okay. That's a lot of stuff. Well,
There you go. I made that really simple, didn't I?
yeah. So we've all been working from home for about 3.5 weeks. It's right. I'm just now feeling like kind of getting into a groove, getting into a routine. So it's kind of rocky the first couple of weeks, but we've maintained connections with people. So we're all still, doing our hours 9 to 5, and we're online, and we're there for people who are writing. I'm in the middle of a grant program right now, and I'm having to transition my in-person panel to an online panel. So this is the first time I've done it online. So it's an interesting process. And I'm kind of a technophobe. So this is a new world for me. I'm just learning everything all at once, the Zoom and the Skype and all that.
You're doing a fantastic job. I mean, you're great too.
Thank you. They'll tell you in the office that I'm the last one that's going to adopt any new technology. We've got a lot of support from the King County Council and the county executive. We have actually rolled out a relief program. This is the fastest thing I've ever seen be created and rolled out like within a month. And so it's just been amazing to watch. But it's our Cultural Relief Fund. I'm reading here from our page. So it's online, which is forculture.org, number 4. And the first round of funding started April 1st. So it's for organizations and individuals. It's 2 separate applications. So if you are not already known to For Culture, like if you don't already have an account or have applied before or whatever, you set up an account and you can go ahead and make that application. And as far as I know, people are getting through the process and approved really quickly. So that's something that's of immediate support for artists and cultural practitioners, because we also have our heritage section, and that's included as well. So we have the Cultural Relief Fund, and then we have a whole page of resources. And this points you to other granting opportunities, technical support opportunities for people who are having to move things online. So I would say, please check out the website, new stuff every day. Lauren Semet, our social media person, keeps us updated with any new stuff that comes down the pike. So that's, I think it'll be a real help for a lot of people. And our cultural community is just really stepping up. I kind of figured it would happen. I just didn't know what it would look like. But, you know, we're creators, we're imaginative. And so people are really jumping into this. And it's like, I can live a whole life like sitting in my chair at home. So it's exciting to see what everyone is doing. So every day I'm getting, you know, emails and emails that, hey, this theater, we're doing this, and this musician, I'm doing this, and this visual artist, we're doing this, doing it this way. So it, you know, it's kind of great to see. And I don't know if people are having psychologically a hard time with any of this. I'm more seeing the side of they figured out something to do to stay engaged. So that's what I see.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of creative stuff happening, you know, with musicians, especially where they get on a Zoom call with like a 12-piece band and everybody's, you know, just jamming to the same song. You know, everybody from like Jimmy Fallon and the late night talk show hosts to, you know, local bands here in Albuquerque. I mean, people are jumping on it, jamming. So I think it's providing through the arts a lot of hope for people. You have people that are doing film contests online here in New Mexico, like shoot a short film, you know, based on your quarantine and sending it in. So I saw one the other night that was pretty cool. And you know, I may actually consider some of those for the film festival in September. So you're right, the creatives and, you know, focusing on the cultural aspect of this, we are creatives and we do need to support one another through the arts, and we're able to do so on platforms like this.
Amen.
So thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah. James, why don't you give us a glimpse of your world right now?
Well, yeah, it's first of all, it's an honor to be here, especially with Doreen, because for the folks from Seattle area, man, I just think the world of For Culture. I think you're the, you know, of all of our government organizations that are paving the way, I think you guys are the best, and I've always admired your work. So it doesn't surprise me at all to hear that you are, you know, doing a bunch of work and getting support out to folks in matters of weeks. That's super cool. Ivan, I am glad that you're feeling optimistic in Albuquerque. It must be the sun that's there that does you so right, because I'm kind of freaking out up here. I had the brilliance of starting a new job as head of new business development for a creative agency here in town about a month and a half ago. So when you how one navigates these new waters when your job is to create new businesses got me pretty nervous. So that's kind of at the top of my mind. But so yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. And then the other thing I think about with Albuquerque is in trying to get new business. When I was the head of the Office of Film and Music for the city of Seattle, our job was to attract business, you know, production up here and put our workers to work in our companies, you know, into business. And one of my biggest competitors during that time was Albuquerque. I mean, I'd be down in LA and so would Albuquerque representatives. And, you know, going to
like
studios.
Ann Lerner there from a city film office.
Yeah, and I can tell you with a tremendous amount of humbleness that I had got my shorts handed to me many times by Albuquerque. You stole business from me left and right. You were so good. I'm so jealous.
It wasn't my fault. Let me just say that first and foremost. But you know, I think we have a lot to offer here when it comes to film and music. Seattle, of course, does as well, and the entire state of Washington. Thus, you know, Ben and I trying to collaborate to see how we can bring two cultures of film and music together in both cities.
Yeah, it's cool to see. The one production I did take from you guys was an Apple commercial that was going to you, and we incentivized commercials, and then Apple came up to us. So it was my one victory against many losses to you. And so, but I'm trying to figure that out now. I'm trying to figure out almost the exact same thing. Like, you know, when you're trying to grow a new business and you're trying to keep your team employed and you're trying to do stuff, how do you even make that happen? So.
Yeah, I mean, right now I think it's almost impossible because we're waiting to see what happens over the next week and flattening a curve. And, you know, I won't get into the political end of things in Washington, but, you know, it's making it really difficult for everybody nationwide.
Yeah. I mean, I have found that, you know, when it comes to like business development and putting jobs together and all that kind of stuff, that it's that's just off the table altogether. And there's just you can't even have that conversation. And you know, I've just kind of done this thing where I'm doing what I'm calling welfare checks. You know, like I'm checking in just to see how people are doing, and I'll look them up online, just you know, LinkedIn or something, and I find they were just laid off, or the company that they were with is 50% down. You know, like, and it changes every day. And so when it's just checking in with people and just how you doing and sharing stories and seeing what we can build together just by talking and doing stuff. We were able to do an interesting Facebook thing that fit within the essential business of the time. This is about 3 weeks ago. And we were able to do this remote live thing kind of like this. And that was kind of a fun thing that came out of that. So just using technology the best we can and, you know, live edit it, switching, and people being able to review it in San Francisco and stuff like that. But now even the parameters have gotten even more strict. So even that, what was possible a couple of weeks ago, isn't possible now. So we're looking at things and just trying to figure it out and just kind of checking in with each other.
I think that's a way to go, you know, check in with people. I know that fundraising on our end, because we're a nonprofit that runs the film festival here, you know, there's no movement in sponsorship whatsoever. And for me to pick up a phone and call someone and say, hey, give me this amount of money during these times, not the way to go on this end. So
yeah, it's tone deaf to try.
Yeah, but I think, you know, sharing, you know, what's happening in different organizations between New Mexico and Washington and these two organizations, I think may open a lot of eyes where people can collaborate into the future, whether it's online or, you know, hopefully sometime soon with this dissipating and finding a cure for this. You know, I think collaboration and the openness to that is really important for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is the time when you start looking into, okay, what can we do with existing assets, or what do we do with animation that we used to do with live action? And, you know, like, it's just, you know, we had a business plan that we wanted to do these types of things. That's just completely off the table now. And so you just have to switch, otherwise fold it up for a while, you know? So that's adjust to the opportunities and the realities that's in front of us. So these are the kind of things that we're moving toward, and just, thinking about how we stay busy during this time. Music is really interesting, though. I think, wow. I mean, I have enjoyed music at another level. I know it's not paying folks, probably, but it's certainly bringing a lot of awareness. And I saw something that was in particularly interesting. I think it was last weekend or the weekend before. But Amazon Music and Twitch did a whole day. They called it Stream Aid. It started at 9 a.m. and it went till 5 o'clock at night. And it was emerging young artists out of Brooklyn to like Garth Brooks. I mean, it was everything. And it was so many different kinds of genres, so many different kinds of folks. And it was back to back to back to back on a game platform like Twitch. And they raised like $3 million, you know, for the United Nations. It brought all kinds of awareness. It was, that was so inventive in my mind. I loved it. It was really good. I saw artists. I enjoyed it. Me and my kids were watching it. I had never gone to Twitch before, not had been that much attention to Amazon Music. Now all of a sudden we're doing it with our kids and we're watching the artists together. It was like, it was super cool. It was that's something that came about that that was a kind of a nice, pleasant surprise from all this.
Yeah, and you kind of see that going on around the world with different organizations, and you know, happy to see that with Amazon Music, of course. And you know, I think because both of you are, you know, involved in film and music and nonprofit work and the like, and supporting artists, you should stay on if you can for the next segment, because we have Shaun Hettinger and Bass Reeves coming on. They're musicians, one from Albuquerque here, and the other from Buffalo, New York, who's been in the business for a long time, and both entrepreneurs. And we're going to have a conversation about, you know, how we are surviving during this time. So when they get on, I mean, definitely invite you to stay on. But James, why don't you give your contact information, like for your website, where people can go to check out what you do?
Yeah, well, right now I'm currently at a creative agency called World Famous, and our web address is worldfamousinc.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. I got brought on to join World Famous. Historically, was a production company in town, and it has been since 2005, but has become a creative agency as recently. And I got brought on to help with that transition, to sell ideas and strategy as much as, you know, camera work. And so that's the big challenge that we're, you know, as we're, you know, evolving from one kind of side to another side while this is all going on. It's just pretty interesting. Fortunately, we're not, I mean, I'm so grateful that we still have client work that we can do right now, and just knock on wood that stays. And, you know, some other new opportunities come up.
Yeah. Any recommendations that you have for other creatives out there for, you know, keeping a client base? Because a lot of, as you said before, a lot of people are going out of business. A lot of people are losing their jobs. I mean, what have you done is it just been being in touch with people, you know, checking in with them?
Yeah. The two things that we've done to just talking to people, the act of talking to people is what triggers opportunity, is what trigger, you know, the collaboration that maybe can get to something. So that's the area. And it's been, everyone's been, and we've been talking about, I'd say 50% of what we talk about is personal as much as it is professional. And everyone's dealing with the same thing with, I don't know if you saw it or not, but my kid came up behind me as I was talking, and he was a complete distraction, and I was trying not to show it. He was hiding underneath me, but you know, it's a relatable moment that we're all going through together. And so a lot of time it's just, you know, getting to know each other in this way. And, you know, I think, you know, experiencing something together is what usually bonds people, you know, makes a relationship. Yep. And so having those bonding moments during this time where we can talk about how embarrassing something is, or the moment, and be really honest with each other and not try to sugarcoat all of this, and support one another and act like a community or a team or whatever it might be, is that bonding moment to get us through it, so that maybe something comes from it during this time. But if it doesn't, we've shared that. So when we do get through this, we can hopefully find something we can work together on. And then the other thing that I would say that we've done is we've been writing op-eds. So we've been trying to find publications, and we have a point of view. We have things that we want to say, and like, hey, how should brands act? You know, we did this one where we talk about the importance of a relationship, and how relationships are really easy when it's the good times. When it's the good times, it's all fun and games, man. Let's do memes all day long, you know, like let's have a Twitter battle, and it's fun between Wendy's and some other person. But when the times get rough, is our relationship still strong? You know, like that's the test of a relationship, is that if we can stay together when things are difficult and we're finding ourselves in a difficult time. So what does that relationship mean? You know, like, so we can get into that kind of thinking and hammer that out in kind of a public way. Is just it's therapeutic. It's processing, you know, everything that's going on our end, and also keeping us out there.
Yeah. I have been doing something personally, kind of giving a shout out to friends or businesses that I have relationships with, you know, on social media. And, I'm on the phone. I make 5 phone calls per day just to friends around the country and the world, just to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. So I think, you know, if all of us are doing that, you know, you want to make the world a better place and come out of this thing, you know, once we get to the light at the end of that tunnel. You know, you're right. The relationships are the key thing to really hold on to and make sure you're cherishing.
Yeah, and I'd like to see our government, not to put any more pressure on Doreen or to have you represent this in any way, but I'd like to see government step up a little bit more on this. I mean, what is happening in Fort Culture is great, and it doesn't surprise me, like I said in the beginning. But I saw a recent plea from someone in our music industry asking. It was an email that said, "Hey, tell our governments, both the city, the county, and the state, that music venues aren't fitting the criteria to get these loans turned to grant options, or they're not fitting the criteria, or these workers aren't fitting the criteria that you all have put into place for relief. And we're going to fall through the cracks if we don't get that kind of support." And that would be a tragic thing. It's one thing to have this stuff go, dark temporarily. If it never comes back, that's not the kind of town that I want to live in. And so, the lawmakers and the folks that are coming up with all of this stuff need to hear about the uniqueness of the workers in these industries, the uniqueness of the way that these companies operate, and accommodate that. And I would like to see more of that. And I know that can't be unique to the Seattle area.
No, but that's exactly right. And I think the top priority was the people, more than the venue as such. But you even see that with the development around here, smaller venues.
Yeah, it was already bad.
Totally at risk. And a lot of that problem is just systemic, because in many cases, the artists and the organizations don't own the building. It's owned by commercial properties. So obviously that's not, there's not money that's going to go to them. So it's a case of having artists and creatives owning their own places, owning their own buildings. Now, we do have a new program that's just rolling out with that to try to address that thing. But the money we have is like a drop in the bucket to what the need is. So, and as it's always been historically, the arts, it's the low-hanging fruit. It's the easiest people to cut off or take from or ignore, because the arts, the cultural people aren't seen as a strong political force. So I think that's something that individuals can do on an ongoing basis. It has to be ongoing to where we're considered as a group to have some political clout, to have some strength politically, and then we don't become like the whipping boy for anything that comes down the pike.
I think that's a great point, because and this is an opportunity, as we're all reaching out, to share our pains and share our struggles and share our desires and goals as well, and to organize that into something. I know the plea that I was referring to came from someone who got their the template for the plea from a group called Washington Nightlife and Music Association. And these are the venues all coming together, the business operators politically, and trying to create a unified voice, and that's going to resonate much better if they were just individually doing that. So I think you're right, Doreen, and I think this is a really good time for associations to find value in associations, to make the voice louder and to make the need more apparent and visible.
Feels like it's a good time also to, speaking to your point, Doreen, about we as creatives having a light voice in government. I know that at the Seattle Film Summit, even though we've called the Seattle Film Summit, one of our direction changes this year has been saying, we need to remove the silos between the creative industries. So only when we come together and call ourselves the creative industry or the creative economy will we have more influence, because sometimes it feels like, well, we're the film guys and we're the musicians and we're the, the painters. So maybe there's opportunity here. And speaking to something you said, James, that it's like, how much time have we all had for self-reflection in the last 3 weeks? And it just amazes me about humanity. It's we're really at our best when we're in adversity, when we have to find solutions. And it's funny because our whole nature is to find comfort. We build things to find comfort, but that's not when we're at our best. It's during adversity.
Yep. Well,
But
pretty insightful, and really great way to kick off the show. And James and Doreen invite you to stay on the line, and be part of this conversation. Want to welcome in Shaun Hettinger from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Reeves from Buffalo, New York. Just really fantastic artists in their own right. And Shaun owns a studio called Neon Moon Studios in Albuquerque. Memory Music. Oh my God, the list goes on of things that Shaun does. Fantastic musician in his own right. And and Bass, you've been in the industry for so long. You've been recording music since what, 16 years old?
That would be correct.
Yeah, so that's a little while. I know he doesn't look it, but he's
I'm 71, so I actually learned how to tune my guitar last year.
Took him a few years to do so, but
teach me.
Shaun's background, I mentioned, the studio. He started classical piano. You started classical piano like 3 years old?
I was 6. It was forced upon me until I made the decision myself about 2 years in. Yeah.
So with the studio work, I know you just got it up and running last year.
Yep.
But you've had Keytard and Feather, that company, Memory Music, all of them are going strong. How has this impacted the studio work? And
I was well positioned to pivot to podcasting almost full time, I would say, because I was already doing about 70% of my work was podcasting, editing, producing for a company called Audavita. If you want a podcast, check out Audavita. But no, it did affect, of course, I have clients who were booked, they booked times. And on day one, I was like, hey, I'll loan you a good $300 microphone and give you a recording interface. Go home. We can do a Zoom recording, you upload, and, we can mix it that way. I can send you mix it back and work remotely. With studios, we've already been doing probably most studios are doing a lot of remote mixing anyway. So I was positioning to do more of that, but the podcast thing was already here and I just easily transitioned over to that.
Yeah. And you've been working with other studios within Albuquerque too, and throughout the state of New Mexico and around the country.
Yep. Rio Grande Studios. Shout out to Ken Riley. He'll throw me some projects and I'll throw him some stuff, because a similar thing. He does mastering there. So if anyone needs something mastered, there you go. Go to that guy. But same thing. You just send him the file. He'll give you a version, email it back to you that day most of the time. He's very quick and very thorough. And that's just one way that, studios were trying to stay busy. But I know it's a really hard time too, because some of my clients, like I gave the one girl a microphone in hopes of doing it this way, and the funds dried up. It's like, so put that project on hold.
Yeah. Now, some of the work you've done in the past, like you wrote the theme song for the Chelsea Handler show on Netflix, and some other things like Nike, Gatorade, some other shows. When you were doing those type of projects, everything I'm assuming was online anyway, correct? Where you would send the music in?
Yes. I had my big break in music right when I moved to Albuquerque from New York. And I didn't know anybody in Albuquerque. And all of a sudden I have a Netflix theme song. And so the only people I could reach out to were my LA friends, my New York friends, 2 cities I lived in for a long time. So just by that nature, I had already kind of started establishing a relationship working for those people. And it's easy to pick up on that. But I would say that this was the first week that I felt things started to slow down in that world. There's a couple projects that I'm on now. I'm finishing one song for a client, and there were supposed to be a couple more coming. And the client told me yesterday, hey, after this one, we're actually going to put the brakes on everything for the time being. So I get it,
Let me ask you this. What do you foresee over the next several months? Right now there's a log jam in a major way with all these projects lined up in Hollywood, studio work, music as well as film. How do you see this playing out?
God, I don't know. There's clearly a lot of films that were already in post-production great, we can finish that. Nobody needs to leave their computers and their homes. But all the projects that are waiting to get off the ground, I just feel like we're going to be stuck in a holding pattern for a little bit. I mean, it's who's to say? Maybe June, maybe July. Nobody knows, right?
Yeah.
But I am encouraging. I love that there's this kind of sense of community online. People are. I know there was the Las Cruces online film contest. Shoot something in your house. Great stuff like that. I'm starting to collaborate with singers who are stuck at home in New York. I'm starting to collaborate with guitar players who are stuck at home here in Albuquerque, and we're just sending files. There's a sense of collaboration, because otherwise we're just going to go crazy with all the creativity just getting bottled up here.
Yeah. And Bass, I mean, you've composed over 500 songs in your lifetime, published many of those. Some background on you: Ford Foundation Executive Leadership Doctoral Fellowship at the age of 21. Went to LA in 1976, and you were working for Goodson Todson game shows. You're writing for them.
Right.
So, I mean, that's an experience, in the Hollywood scene in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, because I went to LA to be a songwriter in the heart of the disco era. So
nice.
Someone of my ilk wasn't in favor at that time.
Yeah.
I found myself getting gigs writing for network television. But it really that experience serves me well today. And I'd like to talk about that, because I think the lesson I learned at that time in my life is very important for today's artist. Because what I learned right away in LA, and I was in my 20s at that time, and when I got my first gig writing for a network show, wow. But as soon as that show got canceled, I realized that things could change very quickly. And at that time, I was, a young kid, and I had a wife and a baby girl who needed to be taken care of. And I learned very quickly that because things could change so quickly, that you needed to find other things to fall back on. I wasn't going to be in the heartbeat of the music business at that time. My stuff was just not like that. So I learned to do other things. And over the years, that served me well. As you know, I met you when I was, entrepreneuring in Washington, D.C. And that's what I've done throughout the years. So that it leaves me in a position now where I'm fortunate to have done many things during my life that have increased my financial viability, so I can do music on my own terms and not have to worry about slowdowns like this.
Well, and it's interesting, before you hopped on, James was talking about it's all about relationships. And I mean, we've known each other for,
25 years,
26 years.
Yeah.
We know what relationships are all about. We've seen each other go through a lot of them,
Sure.
in a good way.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it is very important to keep relationships up. What I'm trying to do now is a senior citizen in this whole realm. Although I'm still very active, writing and working, and still doing things that make sense to me. I'll do a little plug, because I've been working with Neil Giraldo and his three-chord spirits company, developing. So I'll have a toast to Neil and the rest of the guys at Three Chord, developing what we call a musical ambassador program. What we've been doing is finding people to get behind, to become brand ambassadors for this brand, and gives them dollars and cents, gives them exposure, gives them some support. It also helps the brand go forward in the marketplace. But I'm trying to instill in all those people that we found, and all the people that I'm contacting now, that this is the lesson, folks, in the arts. Things can change quickly. And it's wise, in my mind, to have other things that you can fall back on. Not everyone can get a gig. And I'm looking at this thing very realistically. I'm talking to people who are very involved in promoting live concerts and live venues. And they're all going, we're going to be hurting for a long time. Because even if things started to pick up in July, or something, I think, Shaun, you were saying, hopefully in July, there'll be such a backlog and such a lead time to get things going again. I think it's going to be, realistically, a year or more before things are back on track. So people are going to have to survive, literally. And we're going to try to help them with our ambassador program, but I think people need to start looking outside the box. And that's what served me, 50 years ago. I found out very soon that, being open-minded to other things. The other thing I want to say, I think it's important, trying to make this point. I think that musicians especially, and I've known many of them over the years, they suffer from a disease. It's called, I'm no good unless I'm only doing music. Unless I'm working full-time doing my music, I can't be any good. Well, that's just a big damn lie. It really is. You can do many other things. You can be a physician. I know some doctors who are great players and do other things in your life, and you're still good. And that's something I'm trying to drive home to a lot of people now, because they're going, oh my God, my life is over. No, your life is not over. You're still a great musician. You're still a great creator. But, there are some basic realities you have to deal with, like, paying the bills or paying the mortgage or taking care of your kids, whatever it is. And you got to get real about that kind of stuff. If you don't, you're going to be in the heap of a lot of failure. And I mean that sincerely. And I hate to see it happen, but I see a lot of it going on right now. They're going, oh my God, everyone's whining. And, this is not the time for that. This is the time for pulling up your bootstraps and getting to work on whatever you have to do,
Yeah.
That's my spiel. I mean, I think being entrepreneurial, if you don't want to go to work full time, then, learn how to sell bagels on the corner. Whatever it is you have to do, do something to move yourself forward and get over this whole thing of, you have to do music full time to be, legitimate or have street cred or whatever number you're laying on yourself. Get rid of that. It's going to take you down.
Yeah. So, James, do you feel like some of the same things happening with the musicians up in that region where, oh, my life's over, I can't perform anywhere, and they're not pursuing other things? Or you think organizations are coming together to provide that type of support for one another?
Well, in Seattle, I mean, I think Bass is talking about an LA perspective and a New York perspective. And that's, Bass, I loved hearing what you said, man. That was a cool thing to get out there, because we do have to check, we put so much of our self-worth and our identity in our work and the thing that we're making. Then when that's undermined, you just feel like it's taken away from you, but it's a good reminder that it's not. And, but I don't think, I mean, the truth about Seattle is that we've been, and Doreen hit on this a bit ago, the reality is we've been a town that's been suffering from the loss of musicians and workers in music and in film for a few years now because of the growth that this area has seen. I know last year there were probably 5 stories in Seattle mainstream media about musicians leaving Seattle to go to LA, to go to New York, to go to other places because it was so expensive up here. This tech boom that we're all experiencing, it was the fastest growing city for 10 years in a row. Music venues were being shut down and developed. I actually did a TED Talk last year. It was called How Kevin Bacon Saved Seattle, the Seattle music story you've never heard and why it matters today. And in the story, I parallel the movie Footloose with Seattle, and then I bring it to relevant times and talk about what we're going through now and who's shutting down music now. And it's us, it's prosperity and all of that. So that's a long way of saying it was already kind of bad in Seattle. And then this has happened, and now it's really just completely taking the rug out of us. So I don't even know if it currently, and I think this is true, cities are bustling right now. So I think many of us, that if you're not LA or New York, we're feeling that already. Yeah. And now this happened, and it feels like it was just more pain on the wound you already have.
Yeah, and I think here in Albuquerque, especially, with the musicians and the film industry especially, came to a screeching halt. Idris Elba, the actor, he was in town, and he, shortly after he arrived, tested positive for the virus. And, his production just had, complete shutdown, and it just spread throughout with Netflix and NBC Universal and, every other production here in the state. And I think the governor did a really good job of being as proactive as she could be with the flow down throughout the state of getting things shut down, and people started questioning it. when she was doing it, but our numbers compared to other places throughout the United States aren't as high thus far, knock on wood. And, we actually, everybody, Bess and Shaun, thanks so much for being here. You can stay on the line. We have two of the film industry members from New Mexico and Albuquerque here with us, Marc Comstock and Brent Morris. So happy to have you guys on and joining the conversation, filling the void for a lot of people and talking about what's happening in their respective industries. I want to start with Brent. I mean, Brent, you've been in the industry for a while and you've produced and production managed some great indies as well as feature films, documentaries, shorts, a little bit of everything, commercials. What's the vibe, in your world right now, with production management and the film industry here in New Mexico? And Marc, jump in anytime you want as well.
Yeah, no, happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. And I want to give a shout out to you and Albuquerque Film and Music Experience. You're always supporting the crew and the creatives in our town. And sometimes there's a bit of a disparity between the sort of technicians and the people that work on sets and the people who are making indie films. And you've done a really good job in trying to bring that together and bridge that gap.
Thank you.
Yes, to answer your question, how is it affecting our industry? I mean, we are shut down. I think it's very difficult to probably predict exactly when we'll be back because essentially no major productions are going to want to come back with the risk of infecting cast and crew. Insurance policies have to be written. People are very conservative in Hollywood and studios. But I don't really know the logistics on the macro level, but I can tell you on my own experience, I was ready to join an international crew, cast and crew coming in for a movie, an indie movie. And it was pushed theoretically till July if we can get it back going, but we have to bring in an actress from France and a cinematographer from Norway, and that's not happening anytime soon. And I see a lot of the crew. I mean, I guess initially I was really a news junkie on this thing and kind of put me into a dark tunnel, something like I kind of equivocated to my divorce. When something like this happens, you're kind of grieving for your former life. And I was trying to get information and figuring out what am I going to do and making money and this and that. And then I just kind of put all that on hold and I'm like, I need to sort of come up with another level of looking at this. So I'm working with some people and we're creating and we're getting involved in our own personal projects like probably so many of you guys are.
Yep. Marc, welcome once again. There's a Seattle connection there. You went to Colorado State University, graduated, and got into theater in Seattle.
Yeah, and I got my union cards in Seattle, and I lived there for 12 years. So, my first film festival I ever went to was the very amazing International Seattle Film Festival.
Yeah. We missed Marc.
Hey, I just wish you guys could get some incentives. I was there when we used to have them back in the late 90s, and then things changed.
Yes, it did. Albuquerque.
You're working a lot as an actor here in New Mexico up until the shutdown. And, your previous experience, I didn't know this about you, but you were a stand-in for Bill Maher on his show.
Yeah.
Like 8 years.
Yeah. And the cool thing about that gig versus different stand-in jobs was because it's live. So they had to tape and see how long each segment was. So I got to do fake interviews, the new rules. I got to be schooled by Jane Lynch on what improv really is one time.
Yep.
So yeah, it was, that show also made me kind of a news junkie, just because you'd have such a diverse group of point of views on and talking about things.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because what I wanted to ask you was, when all this news broke, from January on, and it started rolling its way into New Mexico. What were your thoughts, being the current SAG-AFTRA president here? What were your thoughts about what's happening with the industry or what the impact's going to be? Yeah,
I think like all of us is, will I work again? If you had booked the Harder They Fall, the Idris Elba one, and the Evel Knievel thing, People had booked days and were ready to, like, some people even had their costume fittings and were ready to shoot that next day or the day after. So you want to do a couple things. You want to find out which productions have force majeure, act of God insurance, so that those actors that were booked hopefully will get paid. And I can say that Netflix is doing a great job on paying actors. Checks started going out this week to actors who had booked days on The Harder They Fall, and had been locked in. So then you want to just make sure, what can I do and not give misinformation? And also, too, how can I get the information I do have out to our members so they can kind of navigate those things? And then make sure that you're kind of a cheerleader, and also kind of that, if you need an ear or a shoulder to lean on, can I be that guy? Because our community is great about supporting everyone in that community, and that's musicians and actors and crew and all those things. Yeah, I think we all just took that sucker punch in the gut, and how can we help everyone else stand up? And Ivan, that's why this is great. This filling the void. We need a void filled right now.
Yeah, thank Ben up in Seattle. I mean, he kicked this
Yeah.
whole thing off. We just kind of hopped on the train and want to bring resources to it and bring our.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. I just watched the previous episodes and subscribed. So subscribe, people.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, one thing that really helped me, I was like searching for something to do in this time, and I've been thinking I should do more to give back anyway, besides just business-oriented stuff. So I signed up for Meals on Wheels. Been doing that like 4 weeks. And that really gave me an idea for a creative project of my own. So I'm working on that. And then gave blood. I do a food bank stocking thing once in a while. I mean, you don't have to be locked in your house moaning and groaning about there's nothing to do. I mean, that, to me, it's like the more you get out in, and I'm not advocating leaving your quarantine if that's your position, but I feel like with proper social distancing, you know, I want to be part of the world outside, and I want to try to maintain a support network for those less fortunate than myself. And that helped me a lot face what we're going through.
Yeah, volunteering and giving back is a huge boost for them and for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I know when this whole thing started happening, my business outside of AFMX is an airport meet and greet service for the film industry. So I'm the guy I'm the airport guy, you know, that meets all the actors, directors, producers in and out of town. And, you know, of course, that business completely died. I mean, it just fell off the cliff, and who knows when that's going to come back. And, you know, like Brent said earlier, it's really going to be based on when productions feel that it's safe enough to start producing again. So, you know, I need to focus on our nonprofit and what we can help with in terms of artists, musicians, and filmmakers. Filling the void, yes, this is one avenue where I think we're bringing a lot of great discussion together. But, you know, I want to start trying to give back in other ways. And I agree with Brent once again, where, you know, I have 2 kids. I'm trying to get as much done around the house with their schooling and work for the festival and the like, but how do we give back to the community? You know, so I think the collaborative efforts and coming together, you know, whether it's a filmmaker and a musician, a photographer and a painter, whoever it is, getting people together to really collaborate on stuff is the way to go. And, you know, giving back to the community through nonprofit work and volunteerism where you can is going to be really key as well. What's everybody's thoughts? I mean,
Ivan, I just wanted to bring up, so yesterday on the city of Albuquerque actually launched a little, I mean, it's between $500 and $2,500, I think, for a call for creative types who want to prepare some sort of video production, Corona safe guidelines and all that. So there is some funding for creative ventures, not a lot, but I would imagine that's something people could look into. You know, we all need to make money. We all need to find a way to make money, but I'm fortunate that I had a little stockpile, and you know, it's going to hold me through however long it needs to. And then, you know, we all have to apply for unemployment. We all have to apply for the small business loans if we can. We've all got to just be very proactive in doing that, so we feel like, you know, we're taking a bit of control, and then petition our government to really help artists and people, freelancers in the gig economy.
And that's where the CARE Act has been so important that our musicians and actors got that part of the unemployment. And then to that end, Brent, I couldn't agree more, but we also need to be patient, right? Take those things and realize that those people are working almost 24/7. They're hiring new staff as soon as we can. So when you get someone on the phone, remember you're probably their 50th or 60th, and just be the same kind person you are when we're talking. And Ivan, you touched on this earlier. It's about relationships, and that's not just my relationship to Brent now and to Ivan. It's our relationships as a community. But you're right. Be proactive. Look into those things. Get your documents ready. Help as much as you can, but be proactive.
Yeah. Hey, Ivan, can I propose an idea that I would love to see more people do across their communities?
Hey, this is an open forum. You can, James, you can say whatever you want, man.
It was inspired by what Brent was talking about. And basically one of the things that I'm seeing quite a bit from organizations up here in Seattle is lists. I'm seeing just tons of lists of opportunities. Like, here's something that is potentially supporting somebody, and here's another thing that's potentially supporting, and they're exhausting. And they're coming at us so fast that they're really hard to get your head around. Mm-hmm. And so what I would love to see is artists who think that these programs might benefit them, or businesses who might be benefit from these, doing some field testing and then sharing that experience with the rest of the community. So basically, learn about an unemployment process, learn about a business assistance process, learn about a conversation with the lawyer, learn about whatever programs we have in our communities that are there to help, and then do a webinar that it doesn't, like an explainer video. Do it like, hey, I just discovered this program. Here's my thoughts on it. It's either no good for artists or it's great for artists. Here was my experience on it. I'm going to go live, one of these, on Tuesday at 1, join in, ask questions. I'll do it live right there, and just go for it. There's so much information that if we all collectively attack it and learn about what is the most useful, prioritize that. And then I just think that would be a good use of all of our time, helping each other in that way.
A great idea. In fact, great minds think alike. I'm going to do the unemployment and the CARE Act stuff on Monday when they think they're going to start having those funds, document those steps. And I was going to do the same thing, either a webinar or just hey, this is Marc explaining for actors. And IATSE has some great information, how it is for a crew. I think it's a great idea, and then to expand that to those other lists.
Yeah. And the more specific, I think, the better. Like, not creative economy or something. Like, it's got to be, this is something for actors, or this is something for musicians, or this is something, and it's a musician or an actor or a music venue owner doing it, right. So it's the peers talking to one another, and so very specifically, I think that's what I'd like to see more of that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that is a fantastic idea, James. To that point, actually, I just put this in the comments of YouTube, and being that our world changes day to day, this was hot off the presses last night, but it's the Emergency Relief Fund for Artists and Creative Workers, and I'm just reading this from the email. Provides a $5,000 no strings attached grant and is intended for anyone who earns income from their creative or artistic practice and who has been affected by COVID-19. And I feel like this just got launched yesterday. But on that note, James, this is about the 4th time I've heard that exact request. It's from as simple as, hey, somebody should just get on the unemployment page and show a creative how to go through unemployment.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that we can implement into some sub-programming.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
James, were you talking about our list? Our For Culture page has this huge list.
Yeah, no, I've seen your list. It's
broken down a little bit because we have a specific subsection for artists and creatives, historic preservation, museums and collections, nonprofits, on and on and on. So that's actually a really good idea, and would also be a great way for some of the creatives to get a little extra couple of bucks, doing something.
Well, that's what I was saying. You could, an organization like For Culture could actually pay, artists to go and explore that. Here's a little, and as a stimulus, the MPA model. Put people to work, build something that's good for everybody else.
Okay.
Good.
So any other additional comments to that at all? And we have to ask Todd Connelly as well. He's our producer behind the scenes. Any questions come through the channel where we can have people answer some questions?
Let's take a look at chat here. Ben's actually
lost
been
our
conversing
producer.
with them.
So
Todd,
job opening?
Ben's
is.
been conversing with them.
I just want to say, how lucky are we to have the internet right now? Like in the 1918 Spanish flu, what did we do? What did the likes of us do?
No doubt. No doubt.
I would just say, you know, for me, this is going to pass. We're in Passover right now. This is not going to be forever. I mean, we are going to have to be careful about coronavirus for the next year, but we are going to go back to work. So I'm going to take it to heart to like try to improve myself during this time as a human being, as an artist, as compassionate as I can, you know, so that when I go back and I forget about this time a little bit and I get back into my busy business-oriented lifestyle, you know, maybe I'm evolved a little bit. So I hope everybody would evolve a little bit through this crisis, just in terms of what we're seeing, you know, the deaths and the suffering and all of that. You know, we have to interpret that as artists and come up with ways of addressing that in the future, you know, and evolving our technology and our ways of communicating and our ways of making films in times of crisis, you know.
We do actually we do have a question. It's from Richard Garcia, who's an actor, and he asks, is the Frontier restaurant in Albuquerque open?
It is.
They're doing carry out only, so you basically call your order in and you pull up in a space that's numbered, and when you arrive to the parking area behind the restaurant, you just call them again, give them what space number you're in, they run the food out to you. So I was there the other day, got some carne adobado, some sweet rolls. Oh,
and we
man.
got the breakfast burrito family pack.
Man, the
Get
Frontier.
cinnamon rolls too. Those are great.
Oh yeah.
Hey, sponsored by Frontier.
I know, right? Let me call the owners. They'll be our sponsor next week.
We do have another question here. I'm looking in YouTube, and it's a really good question. It's like, have we thought about reaching out internationally, seeing how artists and filmmakers across the world, whether it's Europe, Philippines, Australia, how are they doing, and can they be included into what we're doing? Have you guys had any?
I have something on that. Okay, so I'm on a documentary listserv. There is an amazing group of people who are assembling a team from all around the globe to document the pandemic, and I don't quite have the bandwidth to be a charter member of it. I've been to a couple Zoom meetings, but they're literally gonna document it on all 7 continents. I don't know.
Wow.
If, Antarctica has the pandemic, but they're going to try to tell the story in a very global way. And I could connect people to that if they want to be a part of it or a contributor of documentary footage.
Yep. I know that I've reached out to film festivals worldwide that have been affected by this. Everybody from South by Southwest to Venice Film Festival, Cannes, and a few others. And I've talked to them just about our resources that we have. We've kind of been pinpointed as this festival that may be a focal festival around the country because we're the end of September, and you know, people are optimistic that this will be gone over the summer and into August, September, at least manageable, and there may be social interaction by then out in public. So yeah, I've reached out to different festivals, you know, offering discounted submission fees for their filmmakers if they were canceled on, you know, just trying to bring some of their musicians to Albuquerque as well. Because, you know, South by Southwest, the musicians that go there, you know, I know it's considered, you know, circus a lot of the times, but, you know, I want to support people not only in New Mexico, but around the world who need a platform and a place to display their art forms. So I've been in touch with others.
Yeah.
Speaking on the international front, I don't know if you all saw this, but it was a video that went around maybe about a week ago or so that showed it was done in by a couple emerging Italian filmmakers, and they got people that had the virus and then asked them what they would say to themselves 10 days earlier.
Right.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and they told these testimonials from the point of view of 10 days of experience with the quarantine and the virus and the community and all that kind of stuff, and edited it together. And I thought it was just a beautiful piece, really cool, well done. It took PSA kind of stuff to another level, very commercial quality, interesting, engaging. And it came at a time when the virus was really, starting to spread across the world. And it was a bit of a reminder, I think, to everybody just beforehand, hey, you all need to learn from our lesson.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
It was.
Do you remember where you saw that at, James?
The internet?
Yeah, it popped up in my Facebook feed, and I know it's on Twitter.
Okay. All right. We'll try to track that down. I have one other submission here. It's from Catherine, who is a small woman-owned animation studio in Massachusetts. And she's got a great question here. It says, a lot of creatives now have more time on their hands to finally work on passion projects. From a writing perspective, how far should someone go in creating their stories before getting into production? I'd just like to peel that back, not necessarily specifically for writing, but just creatives, because we have musicians on here and all walks of life. Like, we've got time to work on our passion projects right now. How are you guys personally approaching that?
I think it's twofold. I've got a script that I'm working on, but at the same time, the world situation, you have to allow yourself to kind of grieve and allow yourself to process that and not feel like Shakespeare and come out and write King Lear during, right? So it's that fine line, but I try to find an hour a day to make sure I do that, just so that I'm not tuned out, but I'm also still creating.
I would say, I mean, I wrote something last Thursday and Friday, and I've been revising it, and I'm going to shoot it next week, and I'm going to have it out by May. It's
nice.
I feel like I got to do something. This is my way of processing it, and I'm going to be as safe as possible, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So, everybody's going to do it differently.
I've seen a lot of stuff, now's the time to take advantage and do that creative project that you've put on the back burner forever. But now I've seen the counter reaction, which is, it's also okay to take some time and just process and get to a mentally, emotionally stable place. If you need a couple days off or to clean your house, go ahead and do that. So the balance, let's keep it in balance too, and not put all the pressure on ourselves.
Yeah,
Beth?
I had to clean my house.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doreen?
So yeah, I did that. I had to clean my house first before I could think straight. But I find myself revisiting prior stuff that I've done and trying to get deeper with it. Going down in layers, because I have a tendency to kind of be surface. And, a great idea, I want to get it out there. I want to get it on paper, and then I jump to the next thing. So now I'm kind of looking a little deeper and finding more nuance.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yep.
I just want to mention that I am looking, hopefully in the near future, for people to get involved in the 3-chord brand ambassador program. Ivan knows a little bit about it. We had Neil at the festival last fall, and so if there's a way that you want to funnel people my way, I'd be happy to get them involved if possible.
Yeah, and the ambassador program is really interesting. I mean, yes, it's a bourbon company, but Neil, the reason he created this company was to really support future generations of musicians, through an ambassadorship program. And what the message of the bourbon is 3-chord is, really enjoying music with a fine bourbon type of mixture. And, it's pretty interesting that, when he came out to the festival, thought Neil was this rocker, which he is, but I mean, one of the nicest guys in the world, and really has a great energy for supporting musicians through the brand. So the brand ambassadorship, I thought, was a really cool idea. And we have a few that we're talking to in Albuquerque and around the country. So I think it's a really cool program. So, James, what are your thoughts on the conversation in terms of being creative or taking time at home or the like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything new to add that wasn't so well said already. I mean, I think all of those things are just fantastic. And, you know, I don't know. I'm trying to, I'm at varying degrees, you know, the stages of, you know, the stages of grief. I go through that whole cycle every day. It's not a long arch for me. It's like the whole thing just repeats itself every single day.
That curve never flattens.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think, and I'd probably answer that question differently at any stage, at any time of any different day.
Yeah.
But, I'm just trying to find, one of the things that I told you earlier, I was writing, we're writing op-eds, right? We're trying to stay out in the public and have a point of view. And I just pitched one this morning around what we can learn from our kids to help us run a company or to be a better leader or to come up with more creative ideas. And that whole process, I was actually pretty hard to think about. I mean, it took a lot of reflection over the past couple of weeks and thinking about it. And it was a really good personal exercise for me because I got to think of my kids in this inspiring kind of way. And it reminded me to cherish what may be a distraction or maybe something that's bothering me or frustration. Hey, that could be also a source of inspiration.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the kind of thing that I'm doing.
Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I love all these points, as James said. And yes, I do think that we are going all through that cycle every day. Back to something that Brent said, now is the time to give everyone grace, especially our families, our spouses, our children. Right? I can't speak to that with more power. Actually, that doesn't even make sense. But the point is, I had a meeting just before this one where I was talking with some creatives, and everybody is coping with this in different ways. And I just love the fact that right now, collectively, we as a species are really taking pause, breathing, reflecting on our lives. But a big part of that is to just give grace to everybody else, give them a little space to breathe and to mourn and go through all these things. And I think that's an important thing that we should keep in mind.
Yeah, I know that I'm appreciative of everybody on screen here, the ones from New Mexico and Bass. We have our different relationships through the industry and the festival and just New Mexico and Albuquerque in general. But, meeting new friends like Doreen and James, I mean, really a pleasure getting to know you over the past hour and, look forward to future collaborations together, through Seattle Film Summit, AFMX, and just personal outreach. I think it's so important that we bring creatives together, whether it's this format or anywhere else online. I just appreciate everybody's time. It really does make a difference. And I think the information and discussions that are taking place are having an impact on a lot of people in a positive way. So, Shaun, Brent, Marc, Bass, Doreen, James, and Ben, thank you for joining us on this week's edition of Filling the Void. I think we filled the void.
Good, my pleasure.
And I do just want to say, I think the award for the best background set has to go to Shaun this week. If we look at those candles back there, it's amazing.
Right? I was kind of jealous.
I had to move all my kids, my 3-year-old's toys that were all in here because we need every square inch of living space right now.
And
I was wondering what Shaun's those tapestries are back there.
Oh, those are some beautiful towels. That's a Neon Moon Studios. My mom was so gracious; she put my logo on everything and gave it to me for Christmas. It's great.
That's
awesome.
Thanks.
We're gonna have to start the Neon Moon tattoos that you like, the stick-on tattoos.
That'd be cool. I know a temporary guy. Yeah,
there you go. Hey, he's an artist. Let's get him involved.
So I just want to again echo Ivan. Thank you guys for all taking the time to be on here. It does tell us a little bit about your willingness to just help your fellow creatives and humanity in general. Just to the audience, we're going to be here every Thursday from now on at 12 Pacific, 1 p.m. Mountain. Albuquerque's Mountain Time. Is that right?
Yeah.
And if you have ideas, thoughts, encouraging, like don't limit yourself. Just send us your thoughts to fillingthevoidsubmissions@gmail.com. We'll get to everything that we can get to. And we definitely want to do a shout out to the Albuquerque Film Office once again for sponsoring this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate everyone so much. Make sure you share this information with all of your contacts to check us out every Thursday as well. It's going to take a group effort to get this around the world. So I really want to continue making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Todd, any following notes before we close out?
Nope, we're good.